Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for another proper book review. This is Dangerous Liaison, the inside story of the U.S.-Israeli covert relationship. And this is by Andrew and Leslie Cockburn. And they were British authors that did several books that I have here in my library. Another one of my favorites by them, and this is how I found this book, is Out of Control. And this is all about, and I've definitely reviewed this before, so definitely check the end screen. I'll link this review. This is all about the Iran-Contra scandal, and this is one of the earlier books on the topic that I was kind of surprised because a lot of people didn't even know about a lot of the Iran-Contra stuff until well, there's still people I know that still don't know about the Iran-Contra scandal, but this one I believe is from all the way back in 87. I was thinking like 1990 or 91, but yeah, this is from 1987. So this is right as all of this stuff was unfolding. And anyway, this is a great book on the topic. My only complaint about this book, and I think I say it in the review, is the lack of a subject index, because there's so much in this that you definitely want to go back and check out. But when I was digging into the Israel nuclear program and South African nuclear program, I dug this book out again. I think over in the members section, I had waved this around violently in one of my members section videos talking about that as it related to, that was actually this and another book on South Africa's nuclear program is how I found this book on the mini-nuke conspiracy. So anyway, this is kind of how my brain works. I'll jump around between a lot of these things as I'm researching a particular topic. And again, with all the stuff in the news about Israel and Iran and all that, it got me going back to some of this material again. This is another one that is very surprising for, just like their other book, a lot of the material they cover in this book, a lot of people weren't really covering it in detail and with the depth they were covering it with until the 90s or the 2000s. So they were way ahead of their time. This one is, I believe, from 91, but let me just double check. Yes, 1991. Excellent book on the relationship between the United States and Israel, and especially a lot of good information about the nuclear program and their illegal nuclear program that's not overseen by the IAEA or whatever, which I think that's been thoroughly discredited now. But one of the things that I found I've got several things dog-eared in here to share with you, but there's a section in here talking about the NSA. And I'm trying to find they had a name for this file in the NSA that I think they called them the gold files. Hold on, let me just double check. This is one of the more curious things. I'd never heard of this until I got this book back out, the gold reports. So I'm going to read a section on the gold reports in here, but these authors, I got to hand it to them. They've done one of the better jobs of really digging into the, a lot of Israeli political stuff and military stuff without getting sidetracked by a lot of the theological things that trip people up. Because Israel, modern day political Israel, the entity Israel that is the political entity of Israel, and that is all it is. There is so much a weight of calling it this other thing, calling it Israel that has this, biblical theological weight to it, makes it really hard for people to separate out and think non-emotionally about that and look at it critically. And I was explaining this to a local friend of mine. We were talking about Israel and all the issues therein. And one of the analogy I would use for the problems in discussing a lot of stuff about modern day Israel is it's kind of like if this old lady comes into town and she declares herself to be your long lost relative, and she says she's your great aunt, and she just needs help because she found out she's got terminal cancer. She only has like a month to live, and she just needs somebody to help her out a little bit and maybe buy her some food, help her out, whatever. Okay, so she's in town hanging out. You give her a place to stay, you put her up in your house, give her some extra pocket money, let her borrow your car, whatever. And some of your friends start getting kind of suspicious, and they're like, hey, we looked up this lady and checked her out, and some things don't add up. And they're like, it's obvious that she's not actually who she says she is. We checked out her ID and all this, and she's not actually your great aunt. And we can prove that, and we're trying to help you out. And you're like, yeah, but she's got terminal cancer. I'm not going to leave. Even if she really is just pretending to be my great aunt, she still has terminal cancer, and we got to be mindful of that. And then your friends run off and they're checking this out, and they're like, hey, they come back to you and they're like, hey, so we've been checking it out some more, and this is really troublesome. Come to find out, this lady doesn't actually have cancer, and we've come to find out she's perfectly healthy. She's perfectly fine. She's never had cancer ever in her life. And you're like, yeah, but this is my great aunt. How are you talking like that about my great aunt? And you just go in circles. And then they bring up, no, well, we found more evidence that she's not actually your great aunt. You're like, how dare you say that about someone dying of cancer? And it's just that circular argument of when you bring attention to one of the things, it jumps to the other thing. So anyway, that all that aside, the Cockburns do a great job of addressing this in an unsensational manner. And, some of that is a lot of that theological baggage. A lot of that is more a product of theology here in the United States than it is over in the UK. I mean, they get a little bit of that, but not near as much as we have here. So anyway, one of the things they had about the NSA, that this is what made me really want to bring this to all of you, is this is talking about the NSA, and it was looking into, had a special division that was looking into some of the stuff with Israel. And talking about some of the Israeli terrorism and some of the really messed up stuff they were doing, Numek fiasco, a lot of that's covered in this book. During the war, this is in 1945. They're talking about during the war, so in World War II, end of World War II. During the war, the U.S. Army had built up an enormous organization to listen in on the enemy's communications and break its codes. This organization, the Army Security Agency, continued to exist until after the war. Sometime in 1945 or 1946, a special unit, even more secret than the rest of the code-breaking agency, was set up to monitor the activities of Israeli agents and their sympathizers in the United States and elsewhere. The men who ran this organization held the view that because of the use made by Israelis of sympathizers from the Jewish community, no Jew, however apparently loyal a U.S. citizen, should be permitted to work in the special unit or even be told of its existence. All reports from the unit carried the code name Gold, signifying that they were not to be shown to anyone of Jewish origin. We had them cold, recalls one former intelligence official who was cleared to see the Gold reports. We knew who was shipping the arms, who was paying for them, who was being paid in this country, every illegal thing that was going on in this country. Because of politics, very little was ever done with this intelligence. But so far as I know, the NSA still has a group like that buried somewhere deep. So, anyway, really, that's the first time I've seen anything like that. And that kind of goes hand in hand with what I was saying in a review I did, I think, a week ago or so, talking about the Mordecai Vanunu case, and how the more of this kind of stuff you read, especially authors like this that do, I think, a really fair treatment, a much more objective treatment of some of this material, you start to see that there are definitely factions within governments that are honest and some that are very dishonest and very corrupt. And I think we do ourselves a disservice sometimes when we're researching these topics and we we look at the entire government as this monolith that is either very good or very bad. And I think it's important to remember that the government of any country is composed of individuals. Some are incredibly corrupt, some are benevolent, some have very righteous motives, some do not. So anyway, and then there's a really good section on the Numek fiasco, and the Numek fiasco is all about where Israel, I believe in the late 60s, was stealing enriched uranium or plutonium or something from the Apollo plant in Pennsylvania, and they were located in Apollo, Pennsylvania, and stealing this enriched uranium and then diverting it, is the euphemism they use, and to Israel to start their illegal, unmonitored nuclear program, which of course JFK was militantly against. So anyway, lots of good information in here, and I think this one is pretty readily available on Amazon for relatively cheap. One of the things I was trying to find in here to show you guys, to read to you, is they have a pretty good, this chapter 11 is all about the Israeli relationship with apartheid South Africa. And there is so much more now to that than I ever realized, which is what led me to getting this book, The Mini Nuke Conspiracy. And I'll link to that on the end screen, where you realize like they were developing a lot of super secret, very advanced nuclear weapons along with apartheid South Africa. And they don't talk about it here, but in this book, they talk about how when Mandela was elected, a lot of that was allegedly, publicly was dismantled, but they say most of the nuclear experts agree that those nukes were most likely moved to Israel. And they talk about the testing, how the United States during the Carter administration actually detected these illegal tests of nuclear tests down in the South Atlantic, but nobody really knew what to do with it. Nobody really knew what to do about it. And a lot of it went to Carter was an evangelical Christian and didn't really know. A lot of the evangelicals had a big problem confronting Israel on a lot of this very obvious illegal behavior. So anyway, lots of good information about, mainly this book is mainly about this weird mainly the military relationship between the United States and Israel. So definitely worth checking out if you're a student of things Israel. And there's a lot of this stuff. Again, when I dug this out a few weeks back, I was surprised how much of this was still very relevant to all the things happening right now. But that's one of the problems with the political entity, political Israel, is that, and the way people view it is, if you run into somebody, kind of the litmus test for this is to ask someone about modern day Israel. Ask them, do you believe modern day Israel, located in the Middle East, is the fulfillment of biblical prophecy? If they answer yes, then you can already fill in the blanks on everything else. Because if you genuinely believe that this political entity in the Middle East is God-breathed, God-inspired, then you're able to excuse a lot of very, very bad behavior because, hey, prophecy. And I can't tell you how many people I've encountered in the last 20-some years who cite that as soon as prophecy. And so as soon as you break that down, as soon as you start realizing and people go through the Bible unencumbered by those political agendas, they realize real quick that does not hold up. But yeah, that's one of the things. Again, books like this are few and far between where they really address a lot of the problems with militant Israel, and they do so in a way that is unsensational and free of a lot of the theological baggage on either side of it. Just dealing with Israel as just another country that needs to be put in check. So anyway, great book. If you can run down a copy of this, I think I originally found this at Half Price Books. I think this is one of my Half Price Books finds. And then when I looked it up online and started going through it, I was like, man, I scored big here. And this actually has a really good subject index in it too. So as I was mentioning in the members section about research, man, books that have a good subject index and really good endnotes are worth their weight in gold when they're on a good topic like this, because you can take all of the information that the authors provided you with, find their original source material, and especially when you're dealing with a really heavily politically charged or theologically charged topic, it's really good to go back to that source material, check all that out. And then, of course, a subject index helps immensely in just following other little breadcrumb trails. So anyway, I'll stop there, but as always, be sure to check the end screen for some of the other videos. I'll link there. But thanks for watching, and thanks for supporting the channel.